How you doing, everybody? I'm Ken Bykoff, and welcome to the Peegs Postgame Live. Indiana heads to Evanston and falls 79-70 to the Northwestern Wildcats as what has been a rough time, to say the least, for Mike Woodson against Northwestern continues. As Indiana also is not able to put away or win a game in which honestly, they should have been able to win this ball game. I understand the fact that Northwestern shot 62.5% in the second half, knocked down 9 of 14 three-pointers on the game, 13 of 27 from three-point range. I understand all of that. I really do. The Hoosiers also made 9 threes of their own, and during one span of the second half, went on a 10-0 run, led by as many as 7, and held Northwestern without a field goal for nearly 10 minutes. And even in that time, they weren't able to kind of chip away at that Northwestern lead. Eventually, they got to a 25, a 6-point lead at the break. But I gotta tell you, It is just really kind of a brutal effort by Indiana. Lose this ball game, 79. 70. You look at that and it's a 9-point loss, and that'll happen on the road. But when you had a 7-point lead, and I give Indiana credit, they were down by 14 with 3:12 to play, and they chipped away at that, and that's all really nice. But a 9-point loss when you've been up by as many as 7, it's a 16-point swing against a team that you are just much more talented than, quicker than. You should be able to defend at a high enough level to win a ball game like this, and yet they can't. They can't. And so the Hoosiers fall. And this is a really critical loss, folks. It was a really critical loss. The Ohio State game on the road obviously makes it a little bit tougher, but you are a team that has a lot more talent, a lot more resources behind it from an NIL standpoint than Ohio State. You choke on a 10-point lead late in that thing and then allow it to get, and you have to win the game in overtime, 77-76 in that one. It's a road game, so I understand that you have that. Then you have this road game, which is at Northwestern. It's a place that's given Indiana problems, but I got to tell you, you still, from a talent standpoint, should be able to take care of business in this one, and they don't. And now it gets a hell of a lot harder. By the way, we already got 2 callers on 812-393-2600. You have Maryland coming up in Bloomington. Then you got to go on the road at Purdue, at Wisconsin. Michigan's going to be coming to town. You got to go to East Lansing. The next few games, this is a battleground here, and it doesn't get easier in the Big Ten. And these are 2 of the games during the Big Ten season in this run where it should have been a little bit easier for you. Yeah, you're on the road. I get it. Winning on the road in the Big Ten is terrible, and officials are awful, but they were terrible for both teams. So I guess that's fair, but it's a situation where it wasn't officiating that cost this ball club. It's their inability to guard the perimeter. It's the giving up 54 points in the second half alone. It is turning the ball over 17 times, playing really carelessly. Just a very, very tough loss for Indiana, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm stunned either. I'm more stunned that they beat Ohio State in overtime. 812-393-2600 is the number. We've got a couple callers in the queue, so let's go ahead and bring them on. Caller, first off, I have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hi, Ken. This is Dave from Fort Wayne. We know each other from tailgating.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going all right. Well, I mean, it could be better.
I understand.
So my wife and I watched the game, and we're watching your show now. And, I mean, a couple good things. I mean, Mbako got 20 points, but, I don't like to dog on college kids. He got the 20 points, but his defense I mean, I don't have the kind of stats that show, but I have to believe that he gave up at least 20 points with this defense. And then, Goody, I don't have the minutes he played. He scored 14. I just think that Goody he's not as talented or as explosive as Mbaka, but he's just on the other side of the floor as far as mistakes, leadership, defense. I just think Goody's a better option right now.
Well, Goody played 33 minutes. He was minus 13 on the night, which is a team leading minus 13. Mbako played 26 minutes. He was minus 3. But I completely agree that his defense leaves a ton to be desired. And teams know it, too. Northwestern was running things specifically to attack Mbako, and he fell into it every second of it. So I don't know if we lost Dave there, but
no, I'm still here. I didn't know if you wanted to go back and
talk
about something else. Sorry about that.
No. I mean that to me is the issue with these folks. It's there are flaws with each one of these kids. And Goody is a better option, but boy, coming off the bench, Indiana still didn't got. Who are you going to bring in to replace Goody at this point? Renew obviously on a bit of a minute limit right now, and he was minus 11 while he was on the floor to begin with. Canyon Carlisle played 14 minutes, gave you nothing. Galloway came off the bench, but he continued to struggle. So I mean, they're writing these starters and they're writing them to losses, and it's just you can't have as many flaws on this team or guys that play one side of the floor and not the other. That it's a killer. It's an absolute killer.
Yeah. I guess we've lost 5 in a row now to Northwestern, which is the first. It's the first streak that we've lost 5 in a row since 1915. So
yes,
there you go, writing history here.
Yep, and I'm a big history guy. But this is bad history right here.
Yeah, it's not the kind of history you want to write.
No,
for sure. Well, I'll let you take another call. Thanks for talking, Ken.
All right, appreciate it, Dave. 812-393-2600 is the number. Got another caller here in the queue as well, and we still we have a ton to talk about with this one. There is one guy that says on the chat, Z Paulson says, I was so hyped after the OSU game. Now I'm sad again. I don't know if he's being facetious or not, but bottom line is the temperature for some people, I guess their level of panic dropped a little bit after that Ohio State game. It didn't for me. It didn't change anything about what I thought about this team after that Ohio State game. And again, this game is not a stunner to me. It's just the 54 points in the second half and all of that continues to be a team that simply does not have an identity. Let's go to our caller again. Next up, name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hey, Ken. This is Ryan and my son Trevor here. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm well. Appreciate you taking the time to take our call for a second. We've been listening to your shows this season, first time calling in, but have been meaning to. Just timing hasn't worked out.
Sure.
But, reactions, honestly, stopped watching the game with about 3 minutes left. At least I did. I was waiting to call in and already vent.
I'm therapy. I tell everybody that.
I even got a damn, note sheet that I've written out here to talk to you.
Excellent.
My son's laughing at me. And by the way, we're in Georgia, born and raised in Indiana. My son's from Georgia. We're born in Georgia, but he bleeds the cream and crimson. Not to jump off on one end, but 3/4 the way through the game, he said, quotations, great, another year with no March Madness.
Yeah.
I mean, that just sums up, everything we talk about, the young generation, to jump back into the game. Some of my notes I even put for coach, and I'll even call it like it is. Some pros I thought. This was probably maybe a little bit in Ohio State, but definitely one of the better games of timeouts that Woodson has used. when there was a couple runs by Northwestern, he got it quick. Previously, we typically don't see that. We see him just let the players figure it out, right?
Right.
So I'll give him the kudos there. But again, 3/4 of the way through the second half or even halfway through, Woodson couldn't help himself. He put Renew on the floor with Ballo again. And then when he saw it wasn't working with about maybe 4 to 5 minutes left, then he took Renew out, and then we had, Mbako, I think, back in there. But I just thought it was a push. And we all knew he would probably go back to that at some point. I just didn't think in game one. I thought it would be one or the other. I just didn't think we'd see it that early. So, and I'd been saying that too.
Yeah.
On Mbako, not to hit on him again, because the first caller talked a lot about it. We all know the whole thing there. I'm not going to be – it's just so disappointing because, man, the dude is so talented. How many games has he came in and within less than a minute scores 8 points? And he does it again tonight. Like
right.
I said, I stopped watching it at that point, but he's not involved. Like, even on offense, he just doesn't know the scheme or where to go. Like, if there's so many plays, even on the offensive in the first half, offensive side of the floor, he's standing around and he takes 3 steps this way. He's lost. He doesn't know the movements or even actions they're trying to do. And it's just disappointing for that. The other note I'll say, this is the last couple games, I've noticed an increase. We've always seen Gallo loves to, dribble, leave both feet, and then make that pass in the air. More times than not, he doesn't get called for the, offensive foul on it. But I've been seeing so much more of that out of Carlisle, Rice. I think so many of our guards are driving, jumping in the air, trying to pass the ball, and it's leading to a lot of turnovers. So that's kind of my rant, man, without going into everything that I follow way too much IU content. But my take on the game, Ken. So,
well, the rule always is don't leave your feet unless you know what you're going to do with the ball. And,
yes, sir.
and so often that you've seen now, a lot of times he'll go up and he'll shoot that little teardrop, and he has that to his game. But it is a matter of a lot of times he will jump and then look for the pass, and almost as if he had planned it. Yogi Ferrell did that a lot early in his career, and he cleaned it up. Galloway's been playing a lot of basketball. He's played a lot of games in an Indiana uniform, and he continues to make those mistakes, and it leads to turnovers that are not helpful. He plays 25 minutes tonight, has 5 assists but 3 turnovers. And so there's that yin and yang to it, and if he's not giving you anything offensively, it becomes a liability after a while, and that's where we are. And when you're talking about guys who, on one end or the other, are consistent, there's inconsistent play from them, but they are consistently somebody's creating mistakes, whether that be Mbako and his shaky defense, Kanan Carlisle and his inconsistency on offense and just dead slump that he's in right now. Same thing with Galloway's in a dead slump. If you're not scoring, you have to be able to lean on something else, and too many of these guys just really struggle with that. Now, back to your another offseason without an NCAA tournament, there's obviously still time for them to bounce back, and words. Sure. That's certainly something that I'm not expecting at this point, but I went ahead while you were talking, I went ahead and checked to look at the numbers for Indiana 2.0, which is what I call Indiana basketball since Tom Crean took over. Because of the fact that the entire program was torn down, it was almost like Indiana was an expansion team where they wore the same uniforms and had the same tradition, but it wasn't the same program. Indiana 2.0. Take out Crean's first 3 years because those were rebuilding years. Some people will argue on whether we should do that, but just for sake of argument. In the last 13 years, since the start of the 2011-12 season, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years. This is our 14th year, but take away the Archie Miller COVID year. And so that gives us 13 seasons. Indiana in the past 13 seasons that has had an NCAA tournament, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 appearances in the NCAA tournament. And it's looking increasingly unlikely that there will be one this year. And so when you're talking about that span of time, think about this year's freshmen at Indiana University. That goes back to when they were 5 years old. 18 years old if you're a freshman. You're 5 years old when Crean takes over. And in those 13 years, 14 if you count COVID, but still, Indiana's been to the stayed home more than it has gone. That's where we're at.
It is. It is. I'll tell you what, I'm sick of seeing Indiana kids excel. I mean, Barnheiser, now we've got, what is this game, UCLA on here, and Ephesians just draining threes after threes. It's just the burnt bridges and in the state of Indiana and the people and the alumni want a coach that we can feel hope, confidence in, that respects the fans. But instead of the wall that's put up or just the blatant cluelessness on what's going on and inability to convey anything through the media to us that gives me a semblance of hope that he is in touch with the reality of college basketball, it's not there. And like, we all wanted this to work. We wanted this to work. But we're in the same position that we were in last year, mid-season. He's honestly got his back against the wall because the boos, all of the stuff has started. Well, and then it's time to start playing, and, okay, now we're going to put in the effort. It's just over it, and it's just disappointing. Yeah. But, yeah, I want the best for the roster, want the best for the guys, and I think that whatever the best that we can get from them, the expectations, again, that he's set, and we all know, Big Ten championship, Big Ten tourney championship, or at minimum a Sweet 16. We don't reach those this year. I don't think there's any way that the administration can't move on from 4 years of failed reaching goals.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything that you said. And I said after the Illinois game, once you lose the crowd, it's over. And he's lost the crowd, and you continue to lose games, and the schedule is going to get tougher, to say the least. It's going to be an interesting couple months. Really appreciate the call.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ken.
Thanks so much. 812-393-2600 is your number. On the chat, it's a busy chat, and I'm thrilled about that. The Bison talks about the scoring, and Indiana gives up 25 points in the first half, 54 in the second half, which, to say the least, is quite a difference there. Northwestern had good looks in the first half and didn't knock them down. They went a long time missing a pile of shots. I think it was 12 or 13, 14 in a row at one point. And that to me is this could have been a lot worse, because it wasn't as if Indiana really turned up its defense. Northwestern was just missing some shots. And that is where your issues are, because those are things that the better teams won't do that. And Northwestern isn't awful, but the better teams won't do that, especially at their place. And I felt that was some of what happened against Ohio State as well. Also on the chat, Jim says, I keep hearing about the talent. Where? Rice is fast, and he goes hard to the bucket, and you see flashes of that, but you don't see consistency. Luke Goody could knock down shots. So on the right kind of team, he's out there being a stretch four, working that 3-point line, creating space for teammates. That should work and give you a piece. He should be a role player and not a star. Not that he is a star, but you have that. Omar Ballo is a man among boys oftentimes. Plays 36 minutes tonight. He's kind of forced to because of Renew being banged up the past couple of weeks, but he's given you plenty, but you have to be able to get him the ball, and he has to do a better job of just setting up on the low block to begin with instead of working there. Mbako, he's a one-dimensional player. He can knock down some shots, but he's one-dimensional, and he only plays one side of the floor. Anthony Leal is a guy that there's a reason why he hasn't seen a ton of minutes. He plays hard. He does the best that he can, but in a game like this, he plays 28 minutes, commits 5 turnovers, takes 1 shot. He's playing because he has to, but he's not making a lot of impactful plays that are going to help on the scoreboard. Trey Galloway is a veteran that's played a lot. There is individual flashes of talent here that simply are not showing up on game day. Or if they are, they'll show up for a game or two and then disappear for a few. Inconsistency is a huge issue, and I don't want to hear a word about it from Mike Woodson about it being a team that, has a lot of new guys playing together and trying to figure things out. It is January 22nd. The time to figure these things out expired a long time ago. That's what the non-conference season is for. And now Indiana moves to 14-6. You're 20 games into the season. You're almost 2/3 of the way through the season. And here we are. 812-393-2600 is the number. I wanted to make one more mention about the last caller saying something about the coach being able to talk to the fan base and get a message across to them. And it's what upset me as much as it did about Mike Woodson talking about the outside noise and calling it ridiculous last time. When you get beat by 25 against Iowa and 25 at home against Illinois, you do not go in front of a live microphone and say it's ridiculous that fans are upset. Where there's outside noise, it's just ridiculous, and people questioning his job, it's ridiculous. No, you're not in the NBA anymore. 25-point losses aren't okay anymore. And that's something I think that has been missed somewhere along the way. You can lose a game, but for God's sake, be competitive. Tonight, Indiana was competitive for a long time, but they also at one point were down by 14. They battled back. But it really, that kind of attitude is what rubs people the wrong way. 812-393-2600. I want to hear from you. Chris says 5 straight losses to Northwestern. Indiana's been having problems with Northwestern for a long time. There's some talk there about Scott Dolson and the issue with and the decision to bring back Mike Woodson for this year. That one's a bit of a challenge because there's a lot that goes into that. This is a team that somebody says on the chat, Woody bullies Dolson and nothing will be done. I don't believe that is like kind of the key to everything. Chris also says there's no way Woodson's able to stay after this year. Too many other boosters will want Woodson gone, and they see a half full assembly hall, and that is the danger, kids, for sure. We saw that atmosphere against Illinois, and it was not great. And you're going to come home on a Sunday, noon tip-off, so plenty of time for people to get down to Assembly Hall. I'm going to be real interested to see what that looks like, what the crowd is like at Assembly Hall this Sunday, because it is looking very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. 812-393-2600 is the number. We got another caller. Caller, if you give me your name, where you're from, and what you got.
This is Bill from White Lake, Michigan. I've talked to you before, and I've told you I'm an old man and all this. But there is a bright side to this, I guess, is that the basketball team is doing a really good job of making us a football school. and the football season now can't come too soon. And that's really all I have to say, because I'm too disgusted to say anything else.
I mean, that one of the things that as the football season went on, that it kept going through my mind was how much the success over at Memorial Stadium was putting some little bit of extra pressure on basketball. And it seems like apples and oranges. But people see Kurt Signetti in year one doing what he has done with nowhere near the tradition or resources as is devoted to basketball. And now people have been excited about football all year, and now here's this roster that has a ton of resources behind it, a ton of talent. Mike Woodson himself spent a lot of time talking about the talent that he had and all the new faces, and it's more of the same story. And so that really is, I understand your frustration and disappointment with the lack of production this year.
Well, one thing we need to do, that's been many callers, is we need maybe more talent in the players, but we need a lot more talent in the coach.
Coach's job is to get the best out of these guys and get them to play consistently. It's always a two-part equation. You could teach it, but you have to have execution. But this has been a hallmark, regardless of the players that he has had here. And inconsistency has been an issue the entire time Mike Woodson has been head coach. And in his first couple of years, I feel like Trace Jackson Davis really saved him a lot because he would put the team on his back and get the job done. In the past 2 years, we haven't had that. And this year, inconsistency from half to half, inconsistency from possession to possession, it has been something to see, and the common denominator through all of that has unquestionably been Mike Woodson.
You're correct, and I agree with your evaluation of it. There must be somebody in Bloomington listening to you very closely.
I don't think they got to listen to me. They have hundreds of thousands of other people that want to tell them too. So
okay, well, that's all I've got. Good night.
I appreciate it. Take care. 812-393-2600 is the number. I'm your therapist for the evening. I'm Ken Bykoff. I'm free. And so that's a lot better than what you'll get from a lot of therapists. Apparently technical issues prevented Woodson from having his post game with Don. And I could tell you right now, I will tell you right now, there ain't nobody more upset about that than Don Fisher. Don Fisher does not like technical issues. As somebody who's worked with him, finishing him up after the football show for years, I'll tell you, Don gets salty about technical issues. So we'll see what we have with there. Roy on the chat says, Northwestern fans were holding signs that read "Extend Woodson," and they were. I saw it, and they not only extend Woodson, but it said "Extend Woodson 0-5." So yeah, they all know. That this is an ongoing story that's rolling, and it will continue. And the turnaround has to come, if it would ever come. The turnaround has to be has to just start with consistency. That is the key to absolutely everything. Is consistency. You have to know what your team is going to give you every time you go out on the floor, and that just is not something that we've seen, and it's tough to battle with. 812-393-2600 is the number. I am hoping at some point to get Mike Woodson on his post-game press conference. We will see if we're able to get that audio, but until that time comes, I wanted to break down some of the numbers, some of the stats from tonight. Hoosiers are led by Mackenzie Mbako, 20 points and 8 of 14 shooting, 3 of 7 from three-point range. He adds 5 rebounds and 3 turnovers. Goes 26 minutes, doesn't get an assist, has a couple of steals. Omar Ballo, 15 points on 5 of 10 shooting, 5 of 8 from the free throw line. He added 7 rebounds. Ballo, by the way, leads the team with 7 assists on the night, had 3 turnovers, but when your center is your lead assist guy, good for him in having that vision to get the ball to people. But I just, that's not ideal. You want your guards to be able to feed your bigs, but good on him on basically coming 3 boards and three assists away from a triple double on the road in 36 minutes. That's rock solid. 14 points for Luke Goody on 5 of 8 shooting, 4 of 5 from 3-point range. He continues to shoot the ball well, but he was also minus 13 on the day. Added 4 rebounds in 33 minutes. Miles Rice, 11 points on 4 of 9 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3-point range, 4 rebounds, 0 assists versus 3 turnovers in 27 minutes. And that in and of itself is a huge problem. This is the inconsistency that I'm talking about. Rice is fast. He is a guy that could score off the bounce, maybe the only Hoosier who can consistently score off the bounce. When you need a basket, give it to him. He can make things happen. But he also has to be able to distribute the ball. And to hand out 0 assists versus 3 turnovers, it's how you lose on the road. It's that way. Anthony Leal plays 28 minutes, has 1 point, shoots the ball once, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 turnovers. That's 8 turnovers from the Hoosiers starting guards. 1 block, 2 steals, minus 2 on the day. Off the bench, a total of 9 bench points. 2 of them from Malik Renew, who was 0 of 6 in his 11 minutes. Just 2 points come from the free throw line. 3 rebounds. Hey, you know what? I don't expect him to be full speed first time out. Clearly on a minute limit, the way that they were using him as they work him back into the lineup. So that's part of that equation, part of that number. But, yeah, that's not ideal, especially on the road. Interesting to bring him back on the road. A lot of times you'll see coaches be able to bring a guy back at home. So he comes into the game, gets the big ovation and all of that. I don't know. This will be funny for you people. As I yawn on air. How about that? Man, talking about IU basketball is tiring. Trey Galloway, 7 points on 2 of 8 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3-point range. 5 assists, 0 rebounds in 25 minutes. 3 turnovers and a block, minus 4 on the day. And Caden Carlisle, 0 points in 14 minutes, only shot the ball once, had 2 assists on the game. The Hoosiers, 17 turnovers, 8 in the first half, 9 in the second half. So there's a little bit of consistency. Hoosiers go 24 of 57 from the field overall, 9 of 20 from 3-point range, 13 of 17 from the free throw line. And honestly, folks, shot the ball well from 3, major free throws. When it comes, you won the battle on the boards, but you also allowed your opponent to knock down 13 threes. On the chat, Jeff quotes from the India Star, the Wildcats came into the game shooting just 31.5% on the season. They only shot better than 40% in 5 of their 18 games this year. They shoot 28 of 58 for 48.3% and 62.5% in the second half alone. That'll lose you a game on the road, for sure. 812-393-2600 is the number. Lines are wide open. Want to hear from you. Hoosiers allowed Ty Berry to come off the bench in this one. Let's see. Well, hold on. He came off the bench in this one. 23 points, knocked down 7 of 10 threes. And yeah, some of those were contested, but a lot of them weren't. Not great, to say the least. Indiana with 17 assists on 24 made baskets, but just so sloppy with the ball. Led to 21 points off of turnovers, which, again, Indiana didn't even get ripped in that area. The 17 turnovers lead to 21 points. The Hoosiers scored 19 points off of 11 turnovers for the Wildcats, so they were right there. But those threes are killers, and you got to guard the 3-point line. The word that I am seeing the most on from the callers and from this was on Twitter and certainly on the chat is disgust. Gus says, I've been a season ticket holder since 21, and this is by far the most disgusted I've been. I just keep seeing that word disgusted. We're all disgusted. Don has to be disgusted, which I guarantee you he was. Roy says, I'm definitely disgusted. I'm also worried about Roy on the chat. Says he drank an entire 2-liter of Mountain Dew sweating this game. Don't do that. Don't drink Mountain Dew. That's yuck. But that's me. Kyle doesn't know everything. That's an interesting screen name. He says, people say they're inconsistent. I disagree. This team consistently gets their butts kicked when they play a team with the pulse. I would say this, that you could look at what they did in the first half, and they were inconsistent throughout the first half. Got down, fought back, got down, up by 6 at halftime, held a Northwestern to just 25 points in the first half, 54 points they give up in the second half. That's inconsistent from half to half. And all you need is a little bit of momentum, and it's starting to get to be a situation here where you're going to start having the Hoosiers hang their head like, oh, here we go again. That's where we're going to get. And to a certain extent, I feel like we're kind of already there because you could see these things coming. Now, the Hoosiers have done a very good job of picking themselves up off the mat plenty of times this year. And again, they did it a few times in this game. Hell, with 9:35 left to go in the first half, the Hoosiers were down 23-13. They're down by 10 on the road. They manage by the 2:16 mark to tie the game, and they led by 6 at halftime, 31-25. So that is, what is that, an 18-2 run in the final 10 minutes. Fantastic. That was a good job of picking yourself up off the mat. And even down 14, they cut that 14-point lead to 4 late in the game. It was a 14-point lead with 3:12 to play. And the Hoosiers quickly, very quickly, within about 2.5 minutes, knocked that down to a 4-point lead. Good for you. Maybe try not falling behind by 14. That'd be a nice change of pace. But there are a couple of times in this game you found yourself down by 10, and it's great that you were able to bounce back. But inconsistency makes the coming and going happen. And it's just incredibly frustrating. Natasha on the chat says, a program's in trouble when there's apathy among fans. When we stop caring as much, it's time to move on. Apathy is so much worse for a program than anger. I agree completely, Natasha. Apathy is so much worse. Because when people stop caring, that's when it's a problem. People stop coming to games. People stop giving money to NIL funds or directing it towards other sports. Because there's plenty of successful sports that the Hoosiers have to that the Hoosiers have going on, and it's supposed to be the marquee, kind of the jewel of the Hoosier program is supposed to be basketball, and boy, it isn't there. And apathy will grow. I will say this much, that in the past, Northwestern games have often been basically IU home games because of the number of fans there. Leading up to this game, I had heard that IU fans were deciding to skip their trip to the game to see their Hoosiers play this year. And Welsh Ryan Arena has changed quite a bit since the last time I walked into that building. But there was still a little Hoosier presence there. But from what I could tell on television, it wasn't late. It wasn't near as much as what we've seen in the past. Gritty asks, will you be playing the post-game interviews tonight? If I get them, I will, for sure. And that's always the question we have. when it comes with that because I'm obviously here in my home studio, and when I'm at Assembly Hall, that's what the delay is when it comes to me doing the game. I do it immediately after the game here, and when they're on the road, because there's no reason to wait. At the games, at home games, I'm in the press room. I get the interviews out on Peegs.com. I run the YouTube, and I have them, right when we get going. But the problem, the trade-off of that is that you have to wait a little bit for me to go live. Usually about a half hour after the game, right about there. So I'm kind of at the mercy of others to get me the video, and they have a number of different responsibilities after the game. Video is just part of them. For me, it is at home games. That's why we have it right away, but you got to wait a half hour. So that's kind of where, for me to go on the air. So we're kind of all in the same boat with that. 812-393-2600. I will do what I can to get Mike Woodson on his post-game press conference. It looks like some of that video is starting to come through, so you got that going for us, which is nice. We're going to be pretty excited to see this come up. And we'll have it here in just a few seconds. I'll go ahead and get that pulled in. But 79-70 is your final score. Again, as we queue up this video here, Reed says he's disgusted. Mike says, I'm a little late to the chat, but I'd like to add that he's disgusted as well. Yeah, it's a thing. Reed says we haven't heard from intern Charlie in a while. What's his take? Intern Charlie, he's a little apathetic about this team. He's a little frustrated about that. He doesn't. He's not happy with the Hoosiers at all. Let me go ahead and I will pull up Mike Woodson here so that you could hear his post-game press conference. So without any further ado, here's Mike Woodson during his post-game press conference.
Playing kind of cohesively for a full, you talked about having stretches, but for a full 40 minutes.
I wish I knew. I'm still trying to figure it out. I know we got Malik back, and we knew we weren't going to play him very many minutes tonight, but we have a hell of a defensive half, and then we come out and we give up 54 points, and we pile on the turnovers. I mean, it's just a bad combination. We just didn't play well the second half.
Zach? I guess, Mike, you talk about maybe turnovers, goes into it a little bit, but from your perspective, what got away from you there in that specific stretch? I think it was a 13-0 run in the second half where Northwestern kind of stretches it out and takes control.
Well, again, I mean, I think at the timeout it was 54-52, and then they went on a deep run. We went to the bench and subbed a couple guys, and we just didn't answer the bell coming back out of that timeout, and they did. And I mean, we just didn't the same things that they ran the second. We didn't guard well the second half, and they made us pay for it, especially from the three-point area. We made three-point shots all over the floor. We never responded.
Ravi, then Daniel.
Yeah, 5 losses in a row to Northwestern, Coach. Is there anything in particular you feel like, has led to that?
Listen, I can't go back in the past. The bottom line is we were playing well enough to win a game today, and we just didn't answer the bell the second half. And we got to figure that out now, too, going back home.
Is there anything in particular, you say you didn't answer the bell, is there anything you can point to and say, here's what happened?
Not guarding in a floppy situation, which is the easiest thing to guard. We just, same things they ran the first half. I thought we defended it well. In the second half, we just gave up too many opportunities and they made us pay.
Daniel, then Jack.
Yeah, Mac, I want to say Northwestern was 9 of 14 from 3 after halftime. Was that more you? Was that them? Just what kind of happened there, you feel like?
Mackenzie and Baco.
Go ahead,
Mac,
Matt.
or Mac?
I feel like the communication was a little bit lost towards the second half. we wouldn't get to our spots. And when they picked up the ball and spread it out, we were supposed to be with our man. I fell victim to that. So just being able to stay locked in and stay focused for a full 40 minutes and not let the game get away from us like we did.
Jack and then Zach.
Mike, do you think Malik just wasn't back to his full self today?
No, it's going to take a little while, man. The guy hadn't played in a number of games, and he only played about 10 minutes tonight, and it showed. I mean, he's not there yet. He hadn't had a chance to really practice, so, I knew I wasn't going to play him very many minutes tonight, and but that, that was just a part of it. We got to just keep working. He's got to condition more, get a little more practice under his belt to get back. But, we had our chances tonight. Like I said, we didn't defend the second half like we did the first half, and that's something I got to fix.
Zach and then Seth.
Mac, there were a lot of back and forth mini runs, especially in that second half. What's it got to take for you guys to be a little bit more level in those back and forth situations when you guys are going on runs and giving up runs?
Probably just staying cohesive as a team, playing through our offense and talking our defense and following the game plan, getting to the second side and, trusting what we have works and following our practice.
Seth and then Matt.
Mike, I know Mackenzie talked about what happened with the three-point defense. Northwestern, knocked down 13 of them. Most of you guys have given up this year. What do you see from the three-point defense tonight?
Our communication from a defensive standpoint was lost the second half. I mean, our switches, we weren't together on switches where we were connected the first half, and they made us pay for it. I mean, we can't go on routes like that where we don't do what got us the lead. I mean, I thought we played a beautiful first half based on how we played and holding this team to 25 points because they can score the ball, and they showed that the second half.
Yeah, Mike, following up on that, is it kind of worrying at this stage of the season to be seeing that lack of connectedness and
No, I mean, you can never get worried. There's too many games still left, and we play a good game on the road and beat Ohio State, and then come here and got an opportunity to win a game, and we let it get away the second half. And you got to give them credit. They played their butts off the second half, and we didn't.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you guys on Sunday.
812-393-2600 is the number. Obviously, I see this video, or I'm actually watching the video. You guys could just hear it in a way that others. So we're all hearing it at the same time, and that's why when he says like, "Wow," he was asked about, "Are you worried about them being disconnected at this point in the season? 20 games into the season." And he said, no, you can't worry about it. You have to go after it. Hell yeah, you should be worried about it. Be honest. Yeah, I'm worried about it because if we're not communicating well, we're not talking things that we defended well in the first half where we didn't do in the second half. That's inconsistency. That comes down to coaches, and that comes down to just holding people accountable for this. That's what I really struggle about. He didn't say, Reed, he didn't say I got to get him over the hump. I give him that. He said we got to figure it out. But that's why so many people are disgusted. Gritty asked, does Woodson think he's on the hot seat? Does he care? He's not going to say that he is. That's no way that's possible. But I mean, there's no way to think that you're headed in the right direction. I'll say that much for sure. That's what's a struggle. Ricky says Chris Collins had his guys hooked up and Woody didn't. End of story. Woody just said that. That is so. I mean, you are absolutely right that is the case. That's what is frustrating, I think, for people as well, is that I'll ask you guys on the chat, and please, 812-393-2600 is the number. Give us a call. What do you want to hear Mike Woodson say at this point? Because I know I want to hear Mike Woodson say, we need to change things up right now. I don't know if it's trying to get a new lineup in there, trying to work out a new group of guys. We have to get guys out there that are going to stay connected for 40 minutes. That's what a coaching staff has to do. It's, man. Midsection Mike says, would this team win the MAC? Yeah, they would. Oh, see, you got some howling coming from my dog. How about that? It is, again, it is just a struggle to watch this team because you go on the road, you lose by 9 to Northwestern, and I ask you this as well. I asked you what you want to hear Mike Woodson say. I also want to know, were you surprised by this result? Was anybody stunned by it? Especially considering the problems that they've had with Northwestern, but the way they've been playing. Over the past couple of weeks. A 25-point loss to Iowa. Last 10 days, I mean, it's been a 25-point loss to Iowa, a 25-point loss to Illinois, a 1-point win in overtime at Ohio State, and now a 9-point loss at Northwestern. You're 5-4 in the conference. Real challenges coming up as well. People on the chat, I want to hear, I don't want to hear him say another word again. I want Woody to apologize. I want to hear him say he's retiring at the end of the season. I want to hear him say he signed a shooter. I don't think a shooter's gonna help it. I don't think that's where we are. I don't think that's going to make a difference. 812-393-2600 is the number. We have another caller. Call over your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Yeah, Troy from Elkhart.
Hi, Troy. How you doing? Good to hear from you again.
Thank you. Good to catch your show again. Doing okay considering the weather and considering the state of Indiana basketball. But I want to say, one thing over Woody's duration at Indiana, as head coach, he, just like Archie, he's not one of those guys who really likes to talk to the media. And so, I've sort of learned that I don't expect him to ever say too much as, like some in the chat have said, we want an apology from Woody, or we want, like you were saying, we want more, talking about the direction of the team, turning things around and whatnot. I just don't think he'd ever, he could be screaming at the team during halftime, during timeouts, and, during practices, just like the way we'd want to see him screaming at the team, to get them in the direction that we want him to go. Just, sort of like that Bobby Knight halftime speech that, is out there on YouTube.
Right.
But he'll never repeat that during during a press conference or talking to the media. I just think that's, so in that sense, I'm not trying to defend him, because I do think he's got to go. But I wonder if, he's just never gonna, as much as he knows he and the team deserve to be booed at home, the way things have gone. I mean, he and the team have got to expect more out of themselves, just as much as we, the fans, expect it. But I just wonder if, in terms of, because I used to always want him to say, man up and, say what you really mean or whatever, but I just think he's never going to do that.
Well, by that same token, though, by that same token, he did last year say that he had done everything he'd been asked to do at Indiana. And I think people would really, really hard disagree with that.
Yeah, that's true. I do remember that. And, that and the true fans stuff,
right.
That certainly turned me off, and, I've heard, I don't, on whether it's some other podcasts or, some other IU media outlets, I've heard, some of the things that were being said, whether it's, Twitter or whatever, towards directly at Woody were, pretty over the line, whatnot. And maybe that's what led up to the true fans comment. And if there's stuff like that, I certainly wouldn't agree with it. And that doesn't belong in the IU fan base. But, if he's just because he can't take, some critiquing of his coaching, then, hey, this is a big boys sport, and if you can't coach in that, then maybe it's not where you should be coaching.
Well, especially for a guy who has coached in New York.
Yeah, and that's so that's why that, like I said, I sometimes I wonder, if he'll never, the way he speaks to the media and his pressers and all that, but at the same time, yeah, you're right. He's dealt with, New York media. He's dealt with NBA media, right, where, the critiquing has been probably much harsher than we're even doing more recently of him and the team. The other thing is, just playing at Northwestern, one thing we've talked about, everyone's talked about is holding the players accountable. And honestly, I'd want to see bench warmers and, walk-ons playing, sort of like people have talked about how Knight did one time a long time ago, to send a message to the starters and to the guys who get, quality playing time, that, hey, if you want to play, you've got to do what the coaching staff asks of you out on the court. And so, thinking about that Northwestern game where he suspended all those players for the game, I thought when that happened, all right, he's sending a message to the team. And then ever since then, when it comes to holding the team accountable, where is it at? I just don't see it. Maybe McKenzie has gotten less playing time over the last few games before tonight. But I don't know. I just don't think the team gets held accountable as much as they need to be. And, I wish, I certainly don't know the answer. The coaching strategy that could turn things around. Woody's in a better position and has a better background to do it than me, that's for sure. But at the same time, he's been paid enough that he should be able to find something. And I like I said, I think at the end of the season, he's got to go. I mean, honestly, you know what you're getting by the third and fourth season, and last year getting blown out by UConn, the way things were going, the blowouts earlier this year and everything that's happened so far. Yeah, we've got a good record, but now we're getting into the bulk of the Big Ten schedule, and I think I'm afraid we're going to see some more blowouts or some pretty bad losses, and I think Purdue's going to be laughing at us when we go into Mackey. It's what I see.
Yeah. Well, I certainly appreciate the call. Thank you so much, and good points. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for doing the show. Really enjoy hearing it every time.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Yep. Right.
812-393-2600 is the number. You know, Mike Woodson and his teams are 5-4 in the conference this year in Big Ten play. Coming into this season, Woodson was his first 3 years coaching in the Big Ten. Or I should say, just, forget, I'm not going to do the math. I was a journalism major at IU, not a math major. Indiana's 36-33 in Big Ten play under Mike Woodson. 77-46 overall. Been to the NCAA tournament twice. Never been to the second weekend. Those aren't Indiana standards. At least historic Indiana standards, to say the least. And 3 games over 500. When for 2 of those years, you had an All-American in Trace Jackson Davis. In one of those years, you had a lottery pick in Jalen Hood-Schifino. In years 3 and 4, he's 15-14 in the last 2 years against Big Ten play. Pecan says on the chat, that blown out NCAA games. Yeah, the season-ending games under Mike Woodson have been brutal, to say the least. And it's just continuing. I know that Pecan also said that he's been was a mediocre coach everywhere he's been. And, if you look at his coaching record in the NBA, I should say, he is 40 games under 500 in the NBA. Missed playoffs several times, lost in the conference semifinals repeatedly. Has won one division with the Knicks in the 2012-13 season. That was a long time ago. And and honestly, his record in the NBA is irrelevant. I only care about the last 4 years. And I don't think that the last 4 years are what people would like, especially when you see kind of where this trend is, where it's looking like, at least to this point in the season, it's a 500 Big Ten season with a roster that has, millions in NIL funds behind it. Z. Paulson says, I kind of want a pecan pie now. Yeah, me too. Me too. This game against Northwestern was also frustrating because you could see where the Hoosiers were letting the game slip away in the first half. I felt that as Northwestern was going through their long run of not scoring, of not being able to make a field goal, as Indiana battled back to take a 6-point lead in halftime, thinking to myself, this is a team that isn't making baskets. You should be running past them like they're standing still. And the Hoosiers couldn't do it. This is an interesting take. Tamaz? Maybe it's Tamaz. Said, guys, they didn't play bad today, to be honest. Goody has emerged as a leader on the team. It's great to see him coach better than Woody on the floor. It's funny to see Balo yell at Mbako that one time. That's I saw where he's going with that. But you look at the stats on this thing, and there's numbers, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics, and it's the statistics here to where you do that side by side, baby, and it looks like Indiana should have had a little bit of an edge here, and they don't, because 3-pointers and not guarding the perimeter and allowing a team to get 54 second half points. That's what it comes down to. Plain and simple. Kyle says things are going to get ugly in Bloomington. I anticipate the crowd will turn on the team and boo quickly. Well, they were ready to go against Illinois last week, and this one's going to be a noon Sunday game, which means you're going to have, it's different than a Tuesday night game. You're going to have people who've been looking real excited. These games are the kind of games where people get tickets for Christmas, and they're able to come down. It's coming down. It very well could get to be kind of an ugly game. There's no question. We got Dick Trickle, the great NASCAR driver, Dick Trickle. If he's on my chat, I'm very excited about that because I'm relatively certain Dick Trickle is dead. Yeah, in fact, died 12 years ago. So, love the name, though. 812-393-2600 is the number. Last call for phone calls, and we'll start to shut this thing down. But, it is... The question is always, where do you go from here? What does the future hold? If I knew what the future held, I would tell you all the lottery numbers for listening, and then we could split the pot. But Maryland at home. Maryland is in a world beater. I don't want to act like they are, but given the way the Hoosiers have been struggling, it's going to be a challenge. Maryland 4-4 in the Big Ten, 14-5 overall, 0-4 on the road. Been a little shaky. They lost at Northwestern as well. They just beat Nebraska by 3, but they've also knocked off UCLA, knocked off Minnesota, just like Indiana did. So that'll be a challenge. It's not a impossible. Is to see Indiana winning, but boy, it's going to be a challenge. And then, of course, you got that trip to West Lafayette. And then you've got that trip to Wisconsin, which again, Wisconsin is 18th ranked in the nation. Indiana doesn't win in Madison ever. You got a Michigan team that is ranked in the top 20. Michigan State that is ranked in the top 10. You had UCLA and then Purdue here back again. So, I mean, could we see, let's say they beat Maryland. Could we see them losing to Purdue and Wisconsin and Michigan and Michigan State? I can. The inconsistency that you're going to have, and anytime you've played a decent team to this point, you've gotten ripped pretty good. The Hoosiers have played the bottom of the Big Ten for the most part. They've played USC, Penn State. Iowa is 3-5, and they beat the hell out of Indiana by 25. They played Ohio State. Indiana had to beat them by 1 in overtime. They played Northwestern, who they just lost to. They beat Rutgers. They got beat at Nebraska. Nebraska is 2-5. Minnesota, they beat at home. Indiana beat at home. But they've played the bottom of the Big Ten. And they're 5-4. But that's where we are. That's where Indiana basketball is. 79-70 loss in Evanston. And Reed, that's exactly it. Reed says, I actually thought it was the best first 32 minutes that we played all year. That's not saying much, but the last 8 minutes were so bad. That's the inconsistency that we're talking about. That's the inconsistency that we're talking about. I would say that Indiana played its best game against Penn State at the Palestra. But And Matt says, Coach Sig only had to play at the bottom of the Big Ten. Can we do that for basketball? They have. They have. That's what I'm talking about right there. They've played USC, Penn State, Iowa, Ohio State, Northwestern, Rutgers, Nebraska, Minnesota, and they're 5-4. 2-3 on the road. 11-1 at home. That one was a 25-point ass kicking. So that's just where we're at. Didn't mean to point at you, Reed. Nervous about. Matt says, "Can we play them all again?" On the bottom of the Big Ten, yeah. We can. We're going to play some of. Well, no, to get to 10-8? What's that going to do? Oh well, it's a work day. See, Paulson, I'm excited for your optimism. I think we take one in Madison. That is, I suppose, if they're playing a team in Madison, Indiana. But I don't think that's where we're going to be. Right there. For tonight, 79-70 is your final score in Evanston in favor of the Wildcats. The Hoosiers dropped to 14-6 on the season, 5-4 in the Big Ten. There is a gauntlet coming up for the Hoosiers that is not going to get easier. But after every game, I'll be here. Win or lose, I will be here to be your therapy, because I'm sure you're tired of talking to your friends, your family, whatever it is, and they're tired of hearing you make the same complaints. I'm here for it, baby. I am absolutely here for it. So always love our callers, love the chat. I love the activity on the chat. Please keep that up. Looking forward to this show, win or lose, because it's a ton of fun for me, and I hope that you guys continue to enjoy it as well. Well, that's all the time we have on the Peegs Postgame Live. I want to thank you for listening, and I want to remind you to visit Peegs.com for the very best in IU football and basketball coverage you're going to find anywhere. Nobody covers Hoosier recruiting better than Jeff Rabjohns, Matt Weaver, Trevor Andershock, and Jared Kelly. So come be a part of a thriving and exciting community at Peegs.com. Folks, you are not going to be disappointed. Folks, we're out of time, but for now, and for Jeff, Matt, Trevor, and Jared, I'm Ken Bykoff saying thanks for listening, everybody.